I have separated from my partner of nearly 7 years a day after learning of her cheating on me. Thank you for your kind welcome. The objective of this article is to act as a bit of a journaling exercise and maybe to bring some comfort to individuals who have experienced similar situations. My boyfriend and I have been dating since 2015, and I've always thought that this would be the beginning of a long-term relationship on both of our sides. As a result of the bumpy voyage, I didn't get around to proposing until much later in the relationship. There is, on the other hand, a mature ring fund that has remained and which I am certain will find a new home someplace else in the near future. Around the year 2019, I started to have questions about whether our union would be what I had imagined it would be. We were often at differences with one another, nothing physical of course, just disagreements and mutual pouting and discontent. The impact of medical concerns on our life has been severe since 2016, and it did not seem that things would get any better. At the conclusion of our D&M in June of last year, she showed her discontent with me by claiming that I did not satisfy her, that I had never satisfied her, and that the idea of me in bed made her feel sick to her stomach. We chose to attempt to work things out instead of ending our relationship at the time, since we were also in the middle of a 4-month COVID-19 strict lockdown at the time, and I didn't want to send her out on the street or anything like that. It was about September that I learned that she had been exchanging with a man from another nation, which was a serious violation of trust on her behalf. I opted to ignore it since there was no physical violence involved, and even though we never addressed it in public, I had the impression that she was aware that I was aware of her feelings. Despite the fact that I never brought it up directly, we ultimately agreed to seek couples counseling together. When I returned home from a brief holiday in the Dominican Republic last week, I learned that she had had an extramarital affair with another guy in November of last year. She had been chatting with a total stranger she had met online and had been conversing with for at least a couple of weeks when the police arrived at her door. As much as I didn't want to specify a certain day, I knew it would be either before or after our first couples therapy session, which worked out well for me. Today, I left a note on the table and traveled to my parents' house for a few days, where I left my belongings. I will return tomorrow. In an hour-long SMS exchange, which I don't want to speak about out loud because I can't put my thoughts together fast enough to describe them, she claimed responsibility for everything, vowed to do better, and asked if I would want her to come back to my house tomorrow. Her honesty was something I admired about her. This was a big hurdle for me, and I declared that I would not contemplate returning even if we continued to pursue couples treatment for this problem. The fact that she has had both mental illness and horrific assault as a kid and young adult, as she has admitted, is in stark contrast to her previous behavior. After having previously explored the breakup process with our therapist in one of our sessions and having seen the advantages of doing so, I expressed an interest in returning to our therapist to go through the process once again. This is something with which our therapist has also had experience in the past as well. I would never be able to reconcile myself with what happened even if we were able to move on from this, and she found a way to repair herself while we were still in the same relationship because it would always be a part of our history. She may have only had with one other man during our relationship, but I don't believe she has only had with one other man. I believe she was using a very strict definition of what constitutes when she said she only had with one other man during our relationship, and that she has been emotionally and physically cheating with several other men for at least 6 months, if not longer. She said in her statement that she considers this to be a period of her life that has no meaning for her. Despite the fact that this is demonstrably inaccurate, I understand what she is attempting to express. It doesn't matter what the number is, one is just too much to bear. While I feel very unclean for the manner in which I gained this information, particularly considering that I relied on my gut instinct, I also feel somewhat justified since my intuition turned out to be correct. It is difficult for me to shake off the sense of guilt that I have for having discovered this, even though I understand that it is better that I am aware of it, and that we part ways. My appointment with my own therapist will most likely be moved forward a few weeks in order to better assist me in selecting where I should go from here on out in terms of treatment. Even if I have a limited grasp of how she will continue, I am making every effort to concentrate on myself. Because so much of my identity, my work, and who I am revolves around what we were, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with my life now that she's gone. I picked up my guitar for the first time in months and couldn't do much with it, and I don't play as much anymore because I felt ashamed playing around her. Not her fault, she was always very encouraging of all my creative pursuits. My personality is quite private, and I feel lonely easily despite having many friends. I may need to house share since I'm not sure whether living alone is a good decision for me at this point in my life. In due time, I expressed the hope that we would one day become friends, and I really believe that we will apart from the adultery and other difficulties that have occurred. She is wonderful, and we have formed a strong link that I think will last a long time. For me, this does not seem conceivable, or, at the very least, if one of us decides to start dating someone else, I do not feel it will be effective unless the other person is really relaxed back and easygoing. Based on the fact that there was no compelling reason for me to be completely candid with other people about the circumstances of our separation, but I believe it would be inappropriate to share this information with a future partner, who I believe would find it strange that their ex is also a cheater. I reached this conclusion. As soon as I reach to the other side, I'll go across that bridge. She'll most likely migrate to another city, and we won't have many opportunities to see each other again in the foreseeable future. When I reach to that point, I'll cross the bridge. As a result, my narrative has come to a conclusion. Many times this morning, the option of just letting it go and forgetting about it crossed my mind, and I'm thankful that the part of me that remained stable triumphed, since knowing this would have been a source of anxiety for the rest of my life. Throughout my life, I have struggled with alcohol and smoking, which my girlfriend has assisted me in overcoming. I quit smoking as a condition of getting together, which I am grateful for, with the exception of the occasional secret smoke at the bar, and I no longer have that type of support system. It is my hope that I will be able to finish as many of the tasks on my to-do list as I possibly can throughout the course of the next 4 weeks. Additionally, when out and about, I've decided that I won't be buying any alcoholic beverages during that time period, and that I will only smoke if someone offers to give me a cigarette. I don't go out often, so this is usually easy for me. Specifically, I would appreciate any advice you can provide me on how to handle the first few weeks and months after a divorce that was the result of infidelity. First and foremost, thank you so much for continuing to read this far. I hope you're doing well on your road as well. If you are, please leave a comment to let me know that things are getting better, since I desperately want confirmation that things are getting better.